students, welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CRISC Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. The IT Risk Register is a foundational element of effective risk governance. It is a centralized repository where identified IT risks are logged, described, and tracked through their life cycle. More than just a document, the Risk Register acts as a live decision support tool that helps organizations prioritize treatment efforts, monitor risk trends, and guide executive discussions. Each entry represents a commitment to understanding and managing specific exposures. For CRISC professionals, maintaining an accurate and actionable risk register is a key function that supports alignment between technical risk and business strategy. On the exam, if a scenario describes risks being ignored, forgotten, or misunderstood, it often reflects a stale or incomplete register. The best responses will emphasize that the register must be dynamic, up-to-date, and integrated into governance routine. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. A complete risk register entry includes several core components. First is the risk ID and title, which provides a unique and descriptive label. This is followed by a clear description of the risk scenario, explaining what could happen, how, and why it matters. The entry should list the associated assets and affected business processes, ensuring that the risk is connected to real-world impact. Likelihood and impact must be scored, both in terms of inherent risk, before controls, and residual risk, after controls. The treatment status and plan describe what is being done about the risk. Each entry must identify both the risk owner, who makes decisions about treatment, and the control owner, who manages the associated mitigation activities. Finally, the register should include a review date and link the risk to key risk or control indicators, which help track changes and detect escalation. On the exam, missing any of these elements often signals a breakdown in documentation or follow-through. Building the initial risk register is a structured process. CRISC professionals begin by collecting risks from a variety of sources, including formal assessments, audit findings, past incidents, and stakeholder interviews. This helps ensure that the register reflects real exposure, not just theoretical possibilities. Once collected, risks must be classified by type, such as operational, regulatory, or strategic, and by function, such as IT, finance, or HR. Each risk is then scored using consistent criteria for impact and likelihood, which helps support prioritization and comparison. Prioritization should be based not just on scoring, but also on alignment with the organization's risk appetite and the criticality of the impacted business functions. The goal is to focus attention on what matters most, while maintaining a complete view of the broader risk landscape. Clear ownership is one of the most important parts of an effective risk register. Every risk must have a named risk owner, someone who is responsible for making treatment decisions and monitoring the risk over time. Similarly, each control linked to the risk must have an assigned control owner who is responsible for implementation and performance. Ownership information should include contact details, escalation paths, and a cadence for reviews or updates. When ownership is unclear, treatment plans stall, control effectiveness degrades, and audit readiness suffers. If a scenario on the exam describes confusion about who should act or inaction despite a known risk, the likely issue is missing or outdated ownership documentation. The best answer will always involve clarifying accountability and ensuring that every register entry has someone responsible for managing it. Every risk must also be traceable to the controls designed to manage it. CRISC professionals ensure that each risk entry includes a direct link to relevant controls, frameworks, and standards, such as ISO 271, NIST CSF, or the CIS controls. This allows organizations to validate that risks are being mitigated in a consistent and policy-linked way. Traceability supports audit, testing, and reporting functions, and helps teams understand the effectiveness of their control environment. It also links the risk register to other parts of the governance system, including treatment planning, control testing, and incident response. On the exam, if a question asks whether a control is effectively linked to a risk, or if mitigation activities are properly documented, The right answer will involve ensuring that control and risk are visibly connected and monitored in parallel. The tools used to manage the risk register must fit the organization's size, complexity, and governance needs. For smaller environments, spreadsheets may be sufficient as long as they support filtering, sorting, and status updates. Larger organizations typically use governance, risk, and compliance platforms that provide automation, collaboration, and integration with other systems. These tools allow users to build dashboards for executive oversight, track overdue treatments, and monitor control testing in real time. Ideally, the risk register should integrate with incident management, change management, and asset inventory systems to ensure data consistency and real-time updates. On the exam, tool questions may describe environments where risks were missed or lost, and the best answers will involve scalable, searchable, and structured platforms that support ongoing visibility. Maintaining the register over time is just as important as building it. Risks are not static. They evolve based on changes in the threat landscape, system configurations, and business priorities. The register must be updated when new risks are discovered, when incidents occur, when new systems are launched or retired, and when controls are added, modified, or removed. Periodic reviews must be scheduled for each entry, typically on a quarterly basis, to validate status, ownership, and scoring. These reviews help catch changes in risk posture and ensure that treatment plans are still valid. On the exam, scenarios where risks escalated unnoticed usually reflect poor register maintenance. The correct answer will involve reviewing entries on a defined schedule and triggering updates in response to specific events. The risk register is not just an internal tool, it is a core governance document that supports reporting and oversight. Risk committees and leadership teams rely on the register to guide decisions about investment, prioritization, and strategy. The register should track top risks, overdue treatments, and any tolerance breaches, presenting this data in dashboards, heat maps, and scorecards. Reporting should be tailored to the audience. Executives need strategic summaries, while operational teams need tactical status updates. Residual risk summaries help show where exposure remains and whether it is acceptable or needs further action. On the exam, when a scenario includes board reporting or governance decision-making, the best answers will connect back to a well-maintained, role-appropriate risk register that supports strategic alignment. Common pitfalls in risk register management are easy to recognize and frequently tested. These include entries that are incomplete, with missing fields like treatment status, scoring, or ownership. Scoring may be inconsistent, with similar risks rated very differently across departments. Ownership may not be kept up to date, especially during reorganization or turnover. Another common issue is when the register is treated as a static log rather than a dynamic tool. It may contain valid risks, but if no one is reviewing or acting on them, it provides no real value. On the exam, scenarios that say the risk was in the register but not acted on usually point to stale entries, weak review processes, or disconnected governance. Strong answers always involve regular review, documented ownership, and linkage to active governance and oversight. CRISC exam questions related to the risk register often test your understanding of structure, process, and action. You may be asked what is missing from a specific entry. The correct answer might be a treatment plan, assigned owner, review date, or scoring. Other questions may ask why a risk was missed or allowed to escalate. Usually the answer will involve an unmonitored or outdated register. Some questions focus on how to prioritize risk entries, and the best answers will be based on residual risk scores, criticality to business operations, and alignment with risk appetite. Finally, you may be asked what the next step is after identifying a new risk. The correct response is always to document it in the register, assign ownership, assess impact and likelihood, and begin treatment planning. The best answers reflect structured, traceable, and business-aligned register practices. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber CRISC Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.